Hi guys, so a few days ago I posted a video just showing my vintage anniversary ephemera sets. It was just a very simple envelope. This one's 1966 and I put a little 1966 coin in there and just a little paper tag that you could write what the year represents, and in the pocket I put a 1966. This is out of an old music book. It just tells you what happened that month and year in the music world. It's got the charts and some stories about whatever happened that month. Anyway, and I did explain kind of how I did it in my video, but I didn't really show you because I thought it was easy, and I don't know, I didn't think anyone would want to see it. But a few people have asked if I could quickly show how I made them. And so I thought I'll give you do a quick video to show you. They are quite simple, but I think they're just great little, I don't know, great little things to put into journals if you were born that year or got married that year or whatever that year represents. So I did a whole bunch of different years and months. So anyway, so I'll show you how I started. So I use these large security envelopes. Oh, if you didn't see the original video, I'll put the link down in the comments box below. So I just use these security envelopes. I've got a friend on a reception desk that saves them up for me. But I've used the ones where there's quite a large gap between the company name and the window, because I want maybe 3 centimeters either side of the window. So something like this. Of course, I didn't bring a ruler down. So something like this is only 2 centimeters between, sorry if you're from America or somewhere that doesn't use centimeters, but yeah, I can't work in inches unless I sit and calculate everything with a pen and paper. Anyway, so I've got about 3 centimeters either side. So this envelope I wouldn't use to make these. I'd use it for something else. But this one's pretty good because it's got quite a large gap. So now this may seem weird. I don't know if others use this, but most of my paper cutting, I use a roller cutter. This is meant for fabric, but I do have a guillotine and I do have a paper trimmer, but in all honesty, I just find it quicker and easier to use this. But cut it however you like. Now, I don't measure a lot when I do these. I kind of just go, I just do whatever I think. So they're not always a perfect size. And that's why a lot of my Etsy listings, when I put the sizes in the listing, I always put approximately, because I don't typically measure, but I will try to measure for this, just so that if you want to make one exactly the same, you can. Now, I'm going to leave about a 3 centimeter gap. I think that's what I left. See, I'm never prepared. Yeah, about 3 centimeters. So I'll leave a 3 centimeters on either side. Oh, I should say, for this window as well, the opening is at the bottom. And see how it's got the flap that you normally close the envelope? Don't worry, just leave that on. Now, this little bit, I will actually throw in my recycle bin. I used to try and keep every little paper to reuse, because I did used to make my own handmade paper, but yeah, I haven't made any in a while. So little bits like that I tend to just throw out now. I used to put all those little scraps in my paper bin, but they build up so fast. But this larger sheet, I will keep that. And maybe I'll show you something what to do with that little piece after. Now, when I make these, I will cut a whole pile at once. because with the rotary cutter you can, you know, I usually stack about 5 or 6 envelopes on top and cut them at once. So it's not that time consuming. So whatever you see here, I normally do a whole number of them in one hit, not just one. Okay, so you end up with this. Now I'm going to leave the top on. So this will be the top and this will be the bottom. But I will just trim this little edge because it's all ripped. And don't worry about the postal strip there. That'll be covered up anyway. So then I just trim that little bit on the bottom. Okay, so you just end up with this. Now, in my envelope, the little pocket is actually just this back bit folded over, and that's really how simple they are. So that's why I said they're really easy to make. Now, when I do this, I think I've got about 3.5 centimeters here. So 1, 2, 3.5 maybe. But you can make the pockets like bigger or smaller if you want. I made the pocket quite small because my tags are a bit bigger and I only wanted the year showing. But you can make the pocket whatever size you want. And I just kind of flip it over, put a little crease there. Now I don't fold up both of these because then the pocket's a bit too thick, I find. You can if you want, but I'll trim this front little piece off. So that little front piece, I'll just snip him off. Okay, so that's how your little envelope will be. Oh, see, I forgot to do something already. In my envelope, I did put some book page on the back. Now, I forgot to put the book page in. Let me just grab one. I can just glue that down now and trim it. I'll just show you what I mean. Actually, I did this a few times. I don't know why I keep doing it, but I keep forgetting to put the book page in. And I'll tell you why. It's better to put it before you cut your envelope. Okay. So what I was doing is actually gluing the book page down before I cut my envelope up. And that's only because once that's glued down, you don't have to worry about being precise down the bottom because that little pocket will be folded over. I just wanted the window to be covered because I don't want the blue showing through the window. So stick this down before you cut your envelope so that when you cut your envelope, you've got a neater finish and then you don't have to retrim this. So now I'll actually glue that down and then I'll have to trim it off. It just saves you another step. So glue it under before you trim it, but it doesn't matter either way. Anyway, so now I'll just glue that down and trim it, which I won't show you because I'm sure you can do that. Okay, and then once you've glued it down and trimmed both sides, you'll end up, let me trim that just to show you. And look, you don't have to be too precise with the edge because you're going to cover it anyway. Okay, so you'll have this, glue your book page down. don't glue the little flap yet, just glue the book page down. So it'll be like this. Now you can ink the top if you want, so that when you open the envelope, it's inked, but I didn't bother. I mean, you can do that anyway. But if you do ink the top, ink it before you glue the book page down. It's just easier. Okay, then what I do, I've got this big stamp that I found at an op shop. And, oh, I found out in America you don't call them op shops. An op shop is just, it's an opportunity shop. It's just a secondhand store, and they're usually for charities. So, yeah, someone on Facebook, actually a few people on Facebook asked. So I've got this huge stamp. I found this for $3. It's pretty old. You can just tell by the font and the box, and the fact that it's made in Australia means it's pretty old. In Australia, you don't get a lot of stuff made like this anymore. It's all made overseas, but it's so cool. I just love it. Anyway, it was $3, and I bought it about a year ago, and I thought, I have no idea what I'll do with it, but I love it. It's got numbers, and I had to have it. Anyway, so now I will just stamp all over my envelope, and when I stamp it, some of them is the first impression and some is the second and third, just because I like the look of some of them being more faded out. So I will stamp it on the envelope, and here's one I've prepared earlier. I feel like a cooking show. Let me just get rid of this. Oh, sorry about my grimy mat as well. My husband actually pointed out, he said, you should buy a new craft mat because that one's a bit disgusting. And I said, yeah, I know, but actually, you know why I've kept this one? Because it's in centimetres. I don't know why. They're so hard to find in centimetres. They're all in inches. And I've been looking for a really giant one because this is so small. But they're all in inches. Anyway, so now you will have stamped your envelope however you want it. So this one I've just stamped in the center. I go a few off the page. I stamp the flap so that when it's folded up, you'll see it as well. And then once you've stamped it, just run some glue along the sides here. Just both sides, and glue that baby down. But don't glue the flap yet. And you don't need to put glue along this bottom bit. So just put some glue along both sides so that you end up with this. So the top is still closed. I haven't cut that yet. The bottom is open. I mean, you can glue that if you want. I didn't bother just because the window is going to go up. So it's just both sides. Okay. And now you just need to cover it. I've been using this huge sheet of sewing pattern paper because it's got arrows, it's got nice writing, it's got little triangles and lines, and I don't know, I just think it looks really cool once it's glued down, and the colour of it is really nice. A lot of the colours vary, like some of the ones I've got are really, really dark and some are quite light. So yeah, just find one that the colour suits you. Now I've already pre-cut a piece because that sheet is huge and it's really hard to show on camera what I do. But basically I just wrap it now and glue it down. And when I cut the sewing pattern paper, I don't worry about the placement of any of the stuff that's on the pattern paper. Well, I don't worry too much. Like this one, the ear's a little covered up. I might want to adjust that a little. Actually, I might make that Oh no, see, I said I don't worry about placement and then off I go. Actually, I might make this one the front and that the back. Just because the year in the center was covered. But generally, I don't worry too much. I kind of want 3 years showing. I want this one, I want this one, and I want the one in the middle. The rest I don't mind if they're covered. Anyway, so now I just glue it down. So my little flap is still open, and I've been using a glue stick just because I don't want the wet look, if you know what I mean. If you use PVA glue, it sometimes gets that wet plasticky look. And the tissue paper is quite thin, so even if you don't put glue on top, it kind of comes through with a plasticky look and feel to it. Okay, I'm standing up, but I need to sit down for this. Okay, I hope I don't put my big head in camera. And I really do just glue it down. Oh, also, when you put your book page down, just be careful that there's no swear words or anything peeking through, because this book I was using, I don't know what it's about, but it must have had something to do with the Germans and the war, so World War I or II, because it had all this stuff about Nazis and everything, and one of them, through the window, there was something about a lady being strangled, and I was like, oh goodness, I don't want that on someone's little anniversary memory envelope. Anyway, so this glue I'm using is just a Scholar, it's like a school glue stick. It goes on purple and then dries clear. It's quite good, but it dries super fast. So you kind of have to work quickly. Now this little flap down here, I'm also going to cover that just because it's easier to cover it all together than to trim it off separately. And this is so sticky, this glue. And I just put a little bit over the window. It won't stick very well, but I just put it over it so that it holds down while the paper around it dries, if you know what I mean. Okay, and I know you think that's a lot of glue, but I don't want the tissue paper to come up, especially on the edges. Okay. Oops. This one's almost finished. I go through so many glue sticks, it's ridiculous. Honestly, I should buy shares in that company. Okay, then I just stick that baby down, and I don't want it too neat. I want some wrinkles, because when it dries, it gives the tissue paper a really nice feel. See, this one I did too smooth. See, when you want wrinkles, it's hard to get them. If I didn't want a wrinkle, they'd be everywhere. Anyway, so this one has dried quite, this one has gone on quite smooth, which I wish there were more wrinkles, but you can peel it up sometimes if you're quick enough. And don't worry about this. This curling will straighten out anyway once you've done it all. And then just do the back. Have another glue stick. It's always the way, isn't it? You run out of something on camera. It's like if I do something sewing related, I would seriously run out of thread or something. Okay, I'm going to grab another glue. I'm going to stop here and just grab another glue stick, sorry, and I'll be back. Okay, I'm back with a new glue stick and it's actually like an hour or two later. When I went inside, the grandkids nabbed me and I couldn't escape. Okay, let me start again. Okay, so you just glue that baby down. So that little bottom flap is still open. Oops. It's so sticky, it's sticking to my fingers. Okay. Ah, that's so smooth. I wanted more wrinkles. More wrinkles. Okay. So that's it. Just fold it over and let that baby dry. Okay, while that dries for a minute, the other thing you'll need is your little tag. And look, you can put whatever in. I'm just going to show you what I did to make these because that's what I was asked. See this one? Lots of wrinkles. This one's a bit lighter than this one as well. Anyway, so this little tag, I'm not going to show you how I made that because it literally is just 3 book pages glued together. So I've got this book that I've been using up. I just glue, put it all together, and when it dries, I just chop it up. So with one of these pages, I think I get 3 tags, and I didn't measure them because I just eyeball it. It's probably about 5.5 centimeters by about 9.5, maybe 9.5, and 3 book pages glued together, and on the back I put a bit of coffee dyed paper. And I usually use like printer paper that's got something else on the back. Yeah, just because I'm a recycler and I don't want to use my good coffee dyed papers that I use for journals. Well, they're not good papers, it's just that all the papers I use to make journals are out of my husband's recycle paper bin at work. So they've got a security bin and a non-security bin. And they also have a little tray of papers that are kind of blank that they reuse for, you know, scribble notes and stuff. And so the stuff in the non-security bin, you can just help yourself. So he brings me home a little bundle every now and then, but most of it's got rubbish printed on the back. So when I get a whole sheet of paper like this, that is blank, with nothing printed on it, it's like, for me, it's like hitting the jackpot because I don't buy any new papers or anything. So all of the blank ones for me, yeah, it's like, honestly, it's like, yay, I found a blank page, because not a lot of them have blank pages. So for things like this, I will use the ones with printing on the back, and the blank ones, I save them for my journals because they're like gold. There's not too many. So yeah, 3 book pages glued together and 1 coffee dyed, and it comes up quite thick like cardboard. And then I've just stamped it again, whatever year is on your envelope. Okay, so then I just ink the edges. Oops, maybe I should have inked it before. Oops, I didn't cut it. When I cut them, again, I'm not too fussy. I just, if I have a tag that's already made, I'll just use that as my little template. See, actually these are quite, the size is quite the same, even though I didn't measure. shading is quite good. And I might just, so that the whole is centered, I might just put a little dot there. And I'll just use a crocodile for a hole punch. But my little lever has been getting stuck. Okay, where's my ink? And Denise, I'm using the little inking tool you sent me. Thank you very much. I used to use a sponge, like a makeup sponge, and then you'd get really dirty fingers. Okay, anyway, I inked both sides just super quick. And if you're making a whole bunch of these for gifts, if you cut your papers and everything all at the same time, and the same with these, you can knock them out a lot quicker than what I'm doing now, because I'm just doing one. And like how white the paper is. Okay. And for these tags, I've just been using, this is some coffee dyed curtain. I had this huge, actually I had more than one of the same curtain, and I've just been trying to use this up just because I've got so much of it. But you watch, once it's used up, I'll be like, oh, I wish I had some more of that. I like how it kind of makes things look a bit shabby and vintagey. Grungy. Okay, so that's that little tag done. Okay, I'm just going to let that dry a little bit more. Then the other tag that I've got in there is the little coin tag. Now this plastic is from a Doona bag. Actually, you don't say Doona in America, do you? It's like a quilt or blanket bag or comforter. I'm not sure what you call it. But I always save that plastic, and these baggies, I've got a few of them just because I kind of get friends and family to save them for me. So I have my little coin and the little strips of paper that you trim off. I save these. I use them to make my little, well, a few people called them Bonnie's Band-Aids. I won't explain what that is, but I'll put the link down below to that video. It's an older one if you want to know. But yeah, I save all these long strips that you trim off papers, and I just use them for little things like this and for my Bonnie's Band-Aids. And I've just handwritten 1972 in my messy scribble, and I've inked the edges. Okay, so that's ready for my little coin tag. Now, because I've made so many of these coin tags over the past year, I did make a little template that was actually measured out, and just for ease of cutting. So okay, so I just get 2 layers. I'm a bit wasteful with this as well, but this is the last little piece of this bag, so I'm not too fussed. And just because I've made so many, I just found it easier to have a little template to cut it. And of course, you don't have to make it tag shaped. That's just what I have been doing. You can make it little squares or little circles or whatever. just like the little taggy shape. In fact, if I had it just a regular rectangle, it would be easier to sew. Because these little corners sometimes give me grief. Okay. So I've got two little things. And I usually just clip the top just to keep them together when I sew. Just going to get that ready. These little bits go into my soft plastic recycling. My recycling obsession kind of drives my family crazy. Like if I see them put one little piece of paper or plastic or a bottle or something into our rubbish bin, they're in big, big trouble. Okay, back to this. Now I'll just trim this baby. Okay, so that's what we've got so far. Oops, didn't trim that properly, did I? I'm a bit blind, so it's kind of, so if you buy one of these off me and it's not perfect, I'm sorry, but I'm quite blind. I have to have an eye operation early February. Oh no, and I have to, after my operation, because I need a, oh, you don't want to know my medical issues, but anyway, I need the back of my, you can skip ahead if you want it, don't want to hear, but I need the lining of my cornea needs to be transplanted because I have Fuchs corneal dystrophy. And so after the transplant, I have to lay flat on my back for 2 days without moving, with my head in a brace. And I don't know how I'm going to do that because I can't sit still for 5 minutes, let alone 2 days. Oh my gosh. Okay, now the top is still sealed. So I'm just going to trim it to open it up. Yeah, I am not looking forward to that at all. I don't know how I'm going to sit still for 2 days. Okay, so there's your little pocket. See, when I said if you want to ink the top, you can, because, I mean, I suppose I probably should have, because it does look nicer, but anyway. But I haven't been, but you can. Okay, so now I just ink the edges, and I'm going to stop talking because if I can, I'm going to try and speed this up when I edit. I haven't sped anything up in editing yet, but I'm going to try. Okay, stop talking. Go. Oh, so I could say anything I want now because in editing it'll be fast forward. So Tony Williams, when you speed me up, you cheeky girl, because I talk too much, I'll be on like double time. Oh, I need to ink my ink pad. Ink needed. I cannot figure out how to speed this up in editing. Should make some really loud noises at the end when I'm finished inking, because you're probably all asleep. Oh my gosh, I can't even re-ink my ink pad because it's upstairs. I haven't moved everything from my craft room yet. When will I do it? Actually, how long have I been filming? I'm probably going to cut off. Sorry, that swoosh sound when I sit down is the cushioning on my seat. Every time I sit down, my big bum squashes the cushion and all the air goes out of it. Okay. Oh, this little guy. Why can everyone ink so fast and I'm so slow? It looks too straight there. Okay. Now that that little guy's inked, you can glue your pocket down. Don't forget to ink this top bit, because that's the bit I always forget. And you can use whatever glue for this, PVA, tacky glue. I'm just using this craft glue because it's alcohol based and it dries really, acetone based, and it dries really quick. Okay, so now you've made your larger pocket, your little tag, and now we need to sew this. Do you want to see how I sew it? I don't know. Yeah, okay. I'm going to show you, but if you don't want to watch, you don't have to. I'm going to attempt to show you because I don't have a tripod. Well, a proper tripod. I'm going to have to rig up my little... Actually, Elaine from Ms. Aussie Mum, or I can't remember your channel name, something like that. You wanted to see about my nifty camera holder when I sew. This is it. It's a sticky tape. It's an empty sticky tape roll with the corners cut out, and then I just pretty much, because I film on my mobile phone, I just sit my mobile phone like that, or whichever way I want to put it, and yeah, film in front of my sewing machine. Okay, so I'll be back in a tick at my sewing machine. Okay, so I've got you on my super high-tech camera holder. Okay, so I've got my little plastic, can you see? Yep, I've got my little plastic baggie chopped to size, and I just start in the bottom right corner. Okay, I hope you can see okay. Now, you know, my new craft room is a bit echoey because it's still very empty and I haven't moved anything in. So I think my sewing machine is going to be super loud. So you may want to just turn the volume down. Okay. And I'm just using brown cotton because that's what's in my machine at the moment. But you can use black. And I take my little clip off once I get started. I just put it there to hold it because sometimes the top layer slips. have to just move the needle by hand when I get close to the border because I have trouble seeing the edge. And the sewing on these is not perfect. Actually, I wrote that in my Etsy listing. Okay, so I go around the top up to the top right, and then I'm going to turn and just do my little line across, because when I do my little taggies, oops, low battery, when I do them I just put 2 lines top and bottom to separate the date and the coin. But you can sew them however, you can just do it all as just one line or however you want. And sometimes my little edges don't line up, so I mean, that's okay. They're handmade, they're not meant to be perfect. Oh, and all my little threads, I've got this little bin here that I chuck them in, and I use these in all sorts of strange stuff. You'll see. You may have seen some on my channel already, or you'll see some in the future if you're a new subby. Yeah, I really love mixed media, and I love assemblages. And then I love junk journals. So I tend to keep everything, because between those 3, you use a lot of strange stuff. Okay, so I've got my 2 lines across. Now at this stage I'm going to put my little date in. I just find it easier to do this once I've sewn one side, and I just use these flat tweezers to get it in to position. And about there looks good. And then I do 2 lines across. Oops, I might go down one more stitch. I'm sure if you're a proper sewer you can find a much easier or neater way to do this. Yeah, see that one? I've actually gone too far. This is what I mean. Sometimes they don't line up, but I don't mind if they don't line up. And it didn't line up because I didn't sew a straight line. This one's a bit trickier because now you've got to get your little coin in. Oops. And of course on camera, you're always all thumbs. Okay. And I just put my coin into position. I mean, that'll move around slightly anyway. Up there. Okay. Oops, what's happened there? Okay, snip that off. Okay, there's my little coin tag now. Now, I'm going to move you back to my desk. Oops. Okay, so my sewing machine is just to the left of my desk. Okay, so now you've got your little coin tag, and I just want to punch a hole for the eyelet, and I use my little template that I cut the plastic with just to kind of do a dot when I want to make my hole. Okay, I'm just going to punch this. I might be off camera a bit because I can't see standing up. Where's my black pen? Sorry, I can't see that blue. Out there. Okay. And just need an eyelet. Look at this little tray of eyelets. I found this at Reverse Garbage. And it was great because it was when I was down to my last couple of eyelets. And it's got all different colours. And I think for these I've been using this one. Kind of like a, I don't know, what colour is that? Now, if you've got one of these, it punches holes, a large, a small, and it's got an eyelet setter. But I think these eyelets, they're probably, the size is too big for these, because on all settings, because you can turn these around, on all settings, it seems to split the eyelet on the back. I think I need some smaller ones, or maybe, you know, when you've got grommets, you've got a little back plate that you can put on. Maybe those would be good for this. So I'm trying to do it without getting my head in frame. Okay, that one didn't turn out too bad. Okay, and then I've just been using some string from my giant ball of twine. Actually, do you want to see? If you've been with my channel from the beginning, you've seen this ridiculously large. I've got to show you. Look at this. This is my giant ball of twine. I found this at Reverse Garbage as well, which is a recycle centre here. They call it a creative reuse centre. 48.5 pounds, one ply. It's like huge. I use this so much, and honestly, it has not gone down. I know it's hard to get a sense of scale, but let's see. This is 22.5 centimetres wide. And 25 centimetres long. So that gives you an idea. And it doesn't matter how much I use this, it just never goes down. Okay, I know my friend James, he loves my giant ball of twine. Where did I put my tag? Okay. The only thing wrong with this, it goes a little bit fluffy at the end. So you kind of have to put a little bit of glue. I'll show you. And for these ties, I've just been threading it through and doing a single little knot. I don't know the name of the knot. get through. Okay, just like that, just to make it look a bit more rustic. Oh no, low camera, low battery. Okay, and on the ends of these, because they're a little bit fluffy, all you do, you just get a little bit of tacky glue or PVA, whatever. Oh no, I left the lid off this the other night. And then you just twirl a little on the end, and that's kind of holds it together and stops it fraying further. Get rid of that little hairy guy. Okay. And then you're done. Oops, that's not the one I want. Sorry, the one we did is this one. So now you can pop whatever little piece of ephemera you've got inside. So mine is my music sheet. I really wish I had an old newspaper because I think those would be a bit more nostalgic. But you can put whatever. You could put a photo or something. I have done some botanical ones kind of similar to this, which I'll show you as well, that I thought were quite cute. And that's it. See, quite simple. But I know, I'm glad a few people asked if I could show you, because I know, even though it's simple, I know sometimes little tips and tricks might help. Like, I think leaving this closed until you've put the tissue paper on is one of them, because it just makes, if you cut it and then cut the sides as well, you're forever trying to hold the top and bottom layers together. So, you know, putting the tissue paper on and then cutting the top made it so much easier. And you just learn those things from trial and error. The first time I made one, I cut the top. And also with the little pocket, just leaving it open when you cover it with tissue paper and then folding it up helps so much as well. Because originally when I made them, I covered the envelope and then I was trying to cover just that little bit at the front. And it's just so much more tedious. And yeah, covering the whole lot was just easier like that. And that's it. Oh, and just wrapping it around, wrapping the tissue paper around. Originally, my first version, I covered the top, cut it, and then covered the back. But it's just quicker to wrap it around, and at least one side is totally sealed. And then I'll just check if there's any tissue paper coming up, because don't forget, it is tissue paper, so it's still quite delicate. And then I might just get a little bit of glue along my fingers and then just reinforce it down like that. But that's all it is. Super easy, and you can adapt it so many ways. And that's it. And yeah, ask me anything. I have no secrets. I have nothing that's overly complicated. I like simple, quick, easy projects. And yeah, don't be afraid to ask if you need to see something. I'll try and show everything as I do it from now on. Thanks for watching. Bye.